Charles Arnold Patterson, known to most as Arnie, is a man for all seasons and all sports. While hockey and golf are his two passions, and he has been a builder of yeoman service in both, there hasn't been a sport in which he hasn't been involved, from paddling and bowling to tug of war and harness racing. Arnie was and still is a promoter. Anything to do with his beloved Dartmouth, his adored Nova Scotia, Arnie is there telling a story, listing names, making sure the tales are told accurately most of the time, but occasionally with some embellishment.
His impact was substantial and province-wide, really. He has contributed in so many ways, and he's always been at the forefront as a booster, as a promoter, as a contributor, both of his time and talents and of his resources as you name it, and he's been involved with it.
Arnie is a typical media public relations person. He wants to know the story, tell it right, but not necessarily be part of it. He was a long-time marketing and PR man for corporations and his community. He was willing to go to any lengths to ensure success for an event or a team.
Relations man before the term was invented. Really, he was what they call a glad-hander, but he was always there, always ready to lend support. A lot of it was free airtime. You know, if you had an event, well, he'd give you lots of free publicity.
For instance, take the time when Arnie, as a supporter of the Dartmouth Arrows Junior Hockey Club, and Mr. Connolly will pick it up.
One day about ways and means of trying to bail out of this awful situation, and I said, there's a guy in Cleveland who stages pony nights. He arrived in town, he set up an office down downtown somewhere, had 3 or 4 telephones. The old Dartmouth Memorial Rink held 2,500 people. So he started his sales, and Arnie would go in every day and check how was it going. The guy said, it's going great. And finally he went in one day and he said, how many have you sold? He said, we've sold about 6,000 tickets. Arnie said, that's a preposterous. He said, we can't, the rink only seats 2,500 people. Well, he said, no, my goal is to sell 10,000 tickets, and he said only 25% of the people show up, and he said they'll fit neatly into the memorial rink. And he said, isn't that novel? That's wonderful. But anyway, fast forward to the night in question where they get the pony in from the country. I would say 5,000 people showed up, and they had the bridges jammed, and the fire marshal closed the doors, and they brought the pony, and the pony fell down, wouldn't go on the ice, and the guy that won it lived in an apartment building. He had to take the horse home that night. And so it was one of the funniest episodes in our association, I'll tell you that.
That was Arnie. When he owned CFDR, the easy listening station that put Dartmouth on the radio map, he assured broadcasts of the Nova Scotia Voyageurs, which was the newly minted Halifax-based American Hockey League farm team of the Montreal Canadiens in the early 1970s, he assured they would be on the air. His radio background stretched back to the 1940s and early 50s when he worked side by side with Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame play-by-play men Danny Gallivan and Pat Connolly at CJCH. During the early years of the Nova Scotia Voyageurs, his radio station, CFDR, did the broadcasts with Pat Connolly as play-by-play man, and being the owner of the station, Arnie decided he would be the color commentator.
Knew what he was up to, during the course of a broadcast. And as I was describing the play-by-play, he'd be thumbing through the biographical sketches of the players. We were playing Rochester one night at the Forum, as a matter of fact, and I could hear this mumbling in the background, the other microphone through my earphones. Now, Rochester had a player by the name of Eddie Hatoum, who was of Lebanese descent. He was a very handsome, swarthy guy, could have looked like an Arabian prince on skates. And Patterson said, yeah, I was just looking up some information about Eddie Hatoum. He said, he's quite an interesting individual. He was actually born in Hamilton, Ontario, but Patterson concocted this story and said, he was born in Cairo, Egypt, and he grew up skating on the River Nile. And with that, of course, I went to pieces completely and lost it. For the air was filled with silence and what next? But that was Patterson. You never knew.
Yeah, but who was going to fire you, right? I mean, seriously. We mentioned the Lakers Hockey Club earlier. Arnie, the PR man, pulled off the horse promotion, but he also wanted to keep everyone happy, except in this case, team ownership.
coach by the name of Jack Red Bonus. And Mike Kelly, the late Mike Kelly, had negotiated a deal with Jack, and we brought him in, and I don't know how much we were going to pay him. It was $5,000 or $7,000, which in 1969 for a winter's job wasn't bad change. Anyway, Arnie decided to take Jack to the golf course in Brightwood, and they went to lunch and that, and when he came back, Jack was earning about $12,000 a year. Arnie felt he wasn't earning enough money, so he gave him a big raise.
For 60 years as a journalist and broadcaster, he kept Nova Scotians and Dartmouthians in particular in the forefront. He was a newspaper man long before a broadcaster, and Al Hollingsworth recalls visiting Arnie after Al became editor of the Dartmouth Free Press.